3 days after I gave my daughter away at her Charleston wedding, 3 days after writing a check that emptied my savings for her happiness, her new husband stood in my kitchen demanding I sign over the house where my wife took her last breath. If you've ever loved someone more than life itself, you'll understand why I fought back. The morning sun painted golden streaks across my Charleston kitchen, the same light that had blessed this room for 41 years. Just 72 hours ago, I'd walked my daughter Rosalie down the aisle of St. Michael's Church, her grandmother's pearls catching the light like tears of joy. The wedding at the historic Magnolia Plantation had cost me $28,000, every penny from the account Miriam and I had labeled Rosalie's Dream Day when she was just 7 years old. Now, Donovan Ashford, my new son-in-law, sat across from me with documents spread across Miriam's grandmother's oak table like battle plans for my destruction. "Clarence," Donovan said, his Harvard-educated voice smooth as bourbon and twice as intoxicating, "we need to have a serious conversation about your future. This house, maintaining a historic Charleston home at your age, it's becoming dangerous. At my age, 71 years of building a legacy, and he reduced it to a medical condition." "What exactly are you implying, Donovan?" I kept my voice steady, though my weathered hands found the familiar grooves in the table where Miriam used to trace patterns during her chemo treatments. Rosalie shifted uncomfortably beside him, twisting the wedding band I'd watched her receive just days ago. "Daddy, Donovan thinks—" "I think," Donovan interrupted, his manicured hand covering hers possessively, "that Clarence would thrive at Palmetto Senior Living. It's the premier facility in the Southeast. Very exclusive, very dignified." Dignified. As if leaving my home would somehow preserve my dignity. "And this house?" I asked, though my heart already knew the answer. Donovan's smile revealed teeth that had never known struggle. "Rosalie and I would be honored to maintain your family's legacy, preserve it for future generations. You could visit whenever you wanted." Visit. The house where I carried Miriam over the threshold in 1979, where Rosalie took her first steps on these heart pine floors, where I held Miriam's hand as she whispered her last, "I love you." Reduced to a place I'd need permission to visit? "Donovan," I said, standing slowly, feeling the weight of every summer I'd spent restoring this 1847 home with my bare hands. "This isn't just real estate, it's worth approximately $850,000 in today's market. Clarence, I'm trying to help. At your age, the stairs alone are a death trap. Get out." The words came out harder than the hurricane that had tried to take this house in '89. "Daddy, please, not you, baby girl. Him." I pointed at Donovan, whose charming mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold as a December morning. "Take your husband and go. When you're ready to talk to me without planning my funeral, you're welcome back." Donovan stood, adjusting his tailored blazer. "I'm disappointed, Clarence. I thought you'd want what's best for Rosalie's future." The manipulation was so smooth I almost admired it. Almost. As they left the door, Donovan turned, framed by the entrance my great-grandfather had built. "This conversation isn't over. Rosalie deserves better than watching her father deteriorate in a house he can't maintain." After they drove away, I stood in my empty kitchen, Miriam's portrait watching from above the mantel. What did I miss, Miri? What kind of man did our baby girl marry? If you're still watching, if you believe our parents deserve to keep their dignity and their homes, please hit that subscribe button right now. Not for me, for every parent who's ever been betrayed by someone they welcomed into their family. What I discovered next about Donovan nearly broke my heart, but it also saved my life. I came home from visiting Miriam's grave to find my son-in-law in my study, photographing my will. When our eyes met, he didn't even flinch. He smiled and said, "Just helping organize your affairs before you forget where you put things." That's when I knew my daughter had married a monster. 3 days of silence followed that confrontation. Rosalie hadn't called, hadn't texted. The daughter who used to sing, "You Are My Sunshine," every morning until she was 16, now felt like a stranger living in someone else's life. I was brewing coffee in Miriam's favorite mug when I heard it. The distinctive squeak of my study door, the one Miriam always said sounded like her grandmother's rocking chair. Donovan stood behind my grandfather's desk, my personal documents spread before him like a feast for vultures. "Morning, Clarence," he said without looking up from my bank statements. "Rosalie gave me her key. Thought I'd help organize your finances since you seemed overwhelmed the other day." My Marine Corps training from Korea kicked in. Assess, analyze, neutralize. But this wasn't Chosin Reservoir. This was my sanctuary, my daughter's husband violating everything sacred with casual entitlement. "Those are private documents, Donovan." "Nothing's private in a family." He held up my property deed, the original from 1847. "Did you know you're sitting on one of the last privately owned historic properties on Rainbow Row? Developers would pay millions. Put those down, now." He laughed, actually laughed, like I was a child having a tantrum. "Clarence, your generation hoards history while young families can't afford starter homes. Rosalie deserves her inheritance while she can build a life with it, not after." "After I'm dead?" My voice carried the authority of a man who'd led Marines through hell, who'd built the shipping company from nothing, who'd raised a daughter alone after losing her soulmate. Donovan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smiled like a card shark with 4 aces, then looked back at me. "I have a meeting with an attorney, Vincent Kruger. He specializes in elderly estate transitions." Elderly estate transitions. The phrase made my skin crawl like fire ants. "You have no authority to—" "Actually," Donovan interrupted, pulling out a document with an official seal. "Rosalie signed power of attorney for emergency financial decisions regarding shared family assets." My heart stopped. "Rosalie would never. She signed it this morning. She's worried about you, Clarence. The missed medications, the confusion about dates, classic signs of cognitive decline." Missed medications? I hadn't missed a dose since Miriam's death. Confusion about dates? I remembered every anniversary, every birthday, every moment of Rosalie's life down to the minute she was born during Hurricane Hugo. "You're lying." Donovan gathered the documents, sliding them into his monogrammed briefcase with practiced efficiency. "The meeting's at 2. You're welcome to attend, though it might be stressful for someone in your delicate condition." My delicate condition. Each word calculated to make me feel fragile, incompetent, already buried. After he left, I called Rosalie immediately. Her phone went to voicemail. Miriam's voice still on the recording, asking callers to leave a message for the Whitfield girls. I tried again. Nothing. On the 3rd attempt, Donovan answered. "Rosalie is resting, Clarence. The stress of your paranoid behavior has triggered her anxiety." "My behavior? You broke into my study." "I used a key my wife gave me to check on my father-in-law who's been showing concerning signs of dementia. Clarence, seeking help isn't weakness." The line went dead. I sat in my violated study, surrounded by ship models I'd built with Rosalie, certificates from my company, Miriam's first edition books. She'd always been better at reading people, seeing through facades. I failed her, Miri. I failed our little girl. But as I surveyed my ransacked files, something hardened inside me like oak curing in summer heat. Donovan Ashford had made a critical mistake. He'd underestimated a Marine who'd survived Chosin, an entrepreneur who'd built an empire, a father who'd move heaven and earth for his daughter. If he wanted a war, I'd give him Armageddon. Please, if you're still here, hit that like button now. Not for the algorithm, but for every parent who's ever discovered their child married a predator. Share this story. Someone you know might be living this nightmare right now. What my neighbor revealed next changed everything.
My neighbor, a retired Secret Service agent, took one look at the business card my son-in-law had given me and went pale. "Clarence," he said, "I protected 3 presidents, and this man scares me more than any assassin." That's when I learned I wasn't Donovan's first victim. I was his 17th. Hank Castellano had lived next door for 18 years. Retired Secret Service, had protected Reagan, both Bushes, and Clinton. When I knocked on his door that evening, holding Donovan's business card with trembling hands, his expression went from neighborly to tactical in a heartbeat. "Clarence," Hank said, studying the card under his porch light like it was evidence at a crime scene. "Get inside, now." His study looked like a command center. Monitors, secured filing cabinets, a wall of commendations, including a photo with President Reagan. Hank poured 2 glasses of Pappy Van Winkle without asking. "Donovan Ashford," he said slowly, like the name itself was poison. "Isn't his real name. It's his 5th identity that I know of." The bourbon burned less than the truth. "He's a professional predator," he said, pulling files from a safe I hadn't even noticed. "Targets widowed men with single daughters, marries in, isolates the daughter, declares the father incompetent, then seizes everything through forged documents." He spread surveillance photos across his desk, Donovan with different women, different names on legal documents, different cities. Savannah, Nashville, Austin, now Charleston. "How many?" My voice came out strangled. 16 confirmed victims. 4 died during the legal battles. Heart attacks, strokes. One took his own life after losing his family's farm. I stared at a photo of Donovan with an elderly black man who looked broken, defeated. Could have been me in 6 months. "Why hasn't he been arrested?" Hank's jaw tightened like he was back on presidential detail. "He's brilliant. Uses legitimate attorneys who don't know they're handling forged documents. Creates enough family chaos that victims look unstable. By the time anyone figures it out, he's vanished with everything." "And the wives?" "Divorced within a year usually. Committed to psychiatric facilities. He makes them dependent on medications, gaslights them until they question reality, then discards them." Rosalie. My brilliant, trusting Rosalie, who still left cookies for Santa at 35. "Hank, I need your help." He studied me with eyes that had spotted threats to the most powerful people on earth. "Clarence, this is dangerous. Donovan has connections, judges, doctors, even some law enforcement. He's already started his endgame with you. The power of attorney document is fake. Has to be. Doesn't matter if he has a corrupt notary. His guy in Nashville got 3 legitimate witnesses to swear they saw documents signed that never existed." I stood, pacing his study like a caged panther. "So what do I do? Let him take everything? Watch him destroy Rosalie?" Hank moved to his computer, fingers flying across keys with precision. "We fight back, but we do it smart. First, we document everything. Second, we protect your assets immediately. Third," he paused, meeting my eyes with deadly seriousness, "we set a trap that will put him in federal prison for the rest of his life." "What kind of trap?" "The kind that requires you to be bait." Over the next 3 hours, Hank showed me Donovan's pattern. The timeline was identical in every case: marriage, isolation, power of attorney, asset transfer, disappearance. We were at stage 3, which meant I had maybe 10 days before losing everything. "Clarence," Hank said, as I prepared to leave, "he's going to escalate. When predators feel threatened, they become desperate, and desperate men do terrible things." That night, I installed new locks, hidden cameras in every room, and moved all crucial documents to a safety deposit box at 3 different banks. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Rosalie, finally. "Daddy," her voice was thick, slurred, wrong. "Donovan says you're sick, that you threatened him, and that you're not yourself. Daddy, what's happening?" "Baby girl, I need you to listen." I heard struggling, then Donovan's voice, cold as a Charleston winter. "Clarence, you're frightening your daughter with these delusions. We're taking you for evaluation tomorrow. It's for your own good." The line went dead. I sat in my dark kitchen where Rosalie had baked her first pie, where Miriam had danced to Motown while cooking Sunday dinners, where 41 years of love lived in every corner. In Korea, we learned to identify the enemy, study their patterns, exploit their weaknesses. Donovan Ashford thought he was hunting a feeble old man. He had no idea he'd just declared war on a Marine who'd already lost everything that mattered except his daughter. If you have parents, grandparents, anyone you love over 60, please share this video right now. Don't wait. Donovan's next move nearly killed me, but what I found hidden in my own home saved everything. Subscribe and ring that bell, because what happens next will make you question everyone you trust.
The coffee tasted wrong that morning, bitter with more than just age. When I found the hidden camera behind Miriam's urn, I realized why. My son-in-law hadn't just been watching me, he'd been poisoning me, and he'd recorded himself doing it. The next morning arrived with pounding that shook my 180-year-old door. Donovan stood there with two men, one in a medical coat, the other in a suit carrying official-looking documents. "Clarence," Donovan announced loudly enough for the entire historic district to hear. "These gentlemen are here to help. Dr. Brenner specializes in geriatric psychology, and Mr. Dalton is from South Carolina Adult Protective Services." The trap was elegant. Refuse evaluation and look unstable. Submit and risk being declared incompetent. But Hank had prepared me for this exact scenario. "Gentlemen," I said calmly, pulling out my phone to record, "please show me your credentials and the court order requiring this evaluation." Dr. Brenner shifted nervously. "Well," Mr. Ashford said, "Mr. Ashford has no legal authority over me. Unless you have a court order signed by a Charleston County judge, you're trespassing on historic property." Donovan's mask slipped. "Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. The neighbors are watching." "Good. Let the Charleston elite see a son-in-law trying to forcibly remove a veteran from his ancestral home." "Sir," the supposed social worker said, "your family is concerned." "My family," I interrupted, "consists of my daughter, who this man is manipulating. Sir, what's your badge number?" The man fumbled, pulled out an ID that looked like something from a costume shop. Hank had taught me what to look for. The fonts were wrong, no hologram, the photo slightly off-center. "That's fake," I stated flatly. "You're impersonating a federal government official, which is a federal crime with a 10-year sentence." Both men looked at Donovan, who grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises. "Enough, you're coming with us." The physical contact triggered muscle memory from Korea. I twisted free with a move that left Donovan stumbling backward into Dr. Brenner. "Touch me again," I said quietly, channeling every drill instructor I ever knew, "and I'll file assault charges with the police department where my nephew is a captain." They left, but Donovan's parting words chilled my blood. "This isn't over, old man. Rosalie will see what you really are, a paranoid, violent threat to himself and others." After they drove off, I collapsed in my living room exhausted. The coffee I'd made earlier sat cold on the table. That's when I noticed it, a tiny red light blinking behind Miriam's urn on the mantel. My hands shook as I investigated. A camera, professional grade, hidden with expert precision. Donovan had been watching me in my own home. But then, like sunrise over Charleston Harbor, an idea struck. If he'd been recording me... I carefully extracted the memory card, my engineering background from the shipping company helping me avoid damaging potential evidence. On my computer, dozens of files appeared. Donovan had been recording for weeks. Most showed me living normally, reading, watching the news, proving I wasn't the deteriorating old man he claimed. But File 43 changed everything. Donovan, on his phone, standing in my living room while I was at the cemetery. "Yeah, Vincent, the old fool is almost ready. Power of attorney is signed, documents are perfect. 2 weeks max and the Rainbow Row property is ours. A pause. No, Rosalie completely believes he's losing it. I've been putting haloperidol in his coffee. Makes him foggy, disoriented. Classic dementia symptoms. My blood went ice cold. The fatigue, the occasional confusion. He'd been drugging me with an antipsychotic. The recording continued. Just like Savannah, that old jazz musician fought harder, but the Alzheimer's Act worked perfectly. Jury believed everything. Savannah, another victim, another family destroyed. Listen, I've got 16 successes. This is the biggest score yet, 850 in property, plus his offshore accounts from the shipping company. Rosalie gets nothing in the will I'm preparing. The will he was preparing. With my forged signature, no doubt. I copied everything, sent it to Hank's secure server, then called Detective Marissa Hawthorne, whom Hank had vouched for. She'd worked financial crimes for 20 years, had a reputation for being incorruptible. She listened to the recording and said 6 words that gave me hope. We've been hunting him for years. As I waited for the detective, I found more recordings. Donovan discussing his pathetic wife who believed anything. Donovan on video calls with 3 different women, each thinking they were his only love. Donovan laughing about decrepit Southern aristocrats who think their history matters. This decrepit Southern aristocrat was about to make history of his own. Please, I'm begging you, subscribe now and share this with everyone you know. Right now, someone's parent is being drugged and robbed by someone they trust. Your share could save them. Hit that notification bell because the trap we set next would expose not just Donovan, but an entire network of predators.
The FBI agent looked at me with eyes that had seen too much evil and said, "Mr. Whitfield, you're about to help us catch one of the most wanted con artists in America. But first, you have to let him think he's won. Can you watch your daughter's husband destroy your life and smile while he does it?" I thought of Miriam, of Rosalie, of 16 broken families, and said, "I'm a Marine. I can do whatever it takes." Detective Marissa Hawthorne sat in my kitchen while her team transformed my historic home into a high-tech surveillance hub. FBI, Secret Service, courtesy of Hank's connections, and state police, all converging on my 1847 Charleston sanctuary. "Mr. Whitfield," Detective Hawthorne said, her voice carrying the weight of hunting monsters for decades, "Donovan Ashford, real name Dimitri Volkov, is wanted in 12 states. Your evidence is the smoking gun we've needed, but we need him attempting the actual crime on camera." "You want me to let him steal my family's legacy?" She said, "We want you to let him try. There's a profound difference." She explained the plan. I would act vulnerable but not helpless. Donovan would present his forged documents. I would resist just enough to make him reveal his methods, his accomplices, his entire network of corruption. Can you do that, Clarence? Can you pretend to be a victim while knowing you're the trap? I thought of the chosen reservoir, of 17 days in frozen hell, of watching 18-year-old boys become heroes or corpses. Detective, I've pretended to be brave when I was terrified. I can pretend to be weak when I'm strong. Hank arrived with additional intelligence. Clarence, Donovan will bring Vincent Kruger, a disbarred attorney who now forges documents. We've been tracking him since he helped steal 3 family farms in Tennessee. They rehearsed with me for hours, how to act confused but not catatonic, how to ask questions that would make Donovan explain his crimes in detail, how to use the panic button disguised as my heart medication alert. "Where's Rosalie in all this?" I asked, my chest tightening at the thought. Detective Hawthorne's expression softened. "We have an undercover officer posing as a nurse at your home. Donovan's been increasing her medication, Xanax, Ambien, even Thorazine.
She's safe but sedated. She doesn't know what's happening yet. Thorazine. He was giving my daughter antipsychotics, turning my brilliant girl into a zombie? Clarence, Hank warned, seeing my hands clench, channel that rage into the performance. Tomorrow, when Donovan arrives, you're not a father protecting your daughter. You're a confused old man who's struggling to understand why his family wants him gone. That night, I sat in Miriam's chair, holding our wedding photo from the Magnolia Plantation. I'm going to save her, Miri. I'm going to save our baby and stop this monster from hurting anyone else. The next afternoon, exactly 2 p.m., Donovan arrived with his circus of corruption. Vincent Kruger, looking like a weasel in an expensive suit. 2 witnesses who looked like they'd been recruited from a halfway house, and a woman with a camera, probably to document my confusion for court. "Mr. Whitfield," Donovan announced cheerfully, like he was delivering Christmas presents. "Wonderful news! The sale went through. You're moving to Palmetto Senior Living today. They have a beautiful room overlooking the Ashley River." I let my hands tremble slightly, not difficult given my rage. Sale? What sale? This house has been in my family since 1847. Not anymore, Dad. He spread documents across my table like tarot cards predicting my doom. You signed last week, remember, during your moment of clarity. Moment of clarity. The bastard had thought of everything. I don't remember signing anything. "That's why we're here to help," Vincent Kruger interjected smoothly. "Mr. Whitfield, you agreed to this for your own safety. Your daughter is very worried about your falls." "Falls? I haven't fallen since last Tuesday," Donovan lied smoothly. "You fell down the stairs, don't you remember?" Rosalie was terrified. I played along, touching my head as if searching for an injury that never happened. "Where is Rosalie? I want to see my daughter." "Resting. This has been stressful for her." Donovan pulled out more papers. "Now, these transfer the remaining assets, your offshore accounts, the shipping company shares, your wife's jewelry collection." "Miriam's jewelry?" Real pain entered my voice. "Those were for Rosalie, for her daughter someday." "They'll be safer in our management," Donovan said, his smile pure predator. "Now sign here." "But if I can't remember signing before, how do you know I'm competent to sign now?" Beautiful. Detective Hawthorne had predicted he'd struggle with that logic. Vincent jumped in. "You're having a lucid moment. I can legally certify temporary competence." "You can certify competence in someone you claim is incompetent?" I let confusion show. "That doesn't make sense. That's like saying I'm too sick to make decisions except when you need my signature." Donovan's patience cracked. "Just sign the papers, Clarence. Don't make this harder than necessary." "What happens if I don't?" There it was, the threat Detective Hawthorne wanted on camera. Donovan leaned forward, his voice dropping to pure menace. "Then we go to court with video evidence of your violent outbursts, your paranoid delusions, your danger to yourself and others. Rosalie will testify about your deterioration. She'll cry on the stand about her father attacking her husband. You'd make my daughter testify against me? I do whatever's necessary to protect my family's interests. And Clarence, his smile was pure evil. I have friends at the psychiatric hospital. The lockdown ward is very secure. No visitors without my approval. You could spend your last years drugged and forgotten." Perfect. Threats, coercion, elder abuse, conspiracy, all recorded in 4K resolution. If this makes you angry, if you believe our parents deserve protection, please like this video and share it now. Don't scroll past. Be the person who stands up for those who can't defend themselves. The next 10 seconds would destroy Donovan's entire world.
When the FBI burst through my great-great-grandfather's door, the same door that had welcomed Union officers in 1865, Donovan's face transformed from predator to prey in exactly 2 heartbeats.
But the best part? He was recording everything on his own camera, creating evidence that would convict him. Donovan pulled out his final weapon, a video on his phone showing me stumbling, confused, clearly impaired. "See, Clarence, this is you last Thursday. Classic dementia symptoms. No court would side with a man who can't even remember falling down his own stairs." Last Thursday? When he drugged my coffee with enough haloperidol to tranquilize a horse? "That's interesting," I said, touching the panic button in my pocket. "How did you record that without my knowledge?" "Rosalie was worried, asked me to document your decline. She's been keeping a journal, too, every confused moment, every angry outburst. Heartbreaking stuff." "And she wrote these things?" "Every word. Your daughter knows you're losing your mind, Clarence. She just loves you too much to admit it directly." "I want to see these journal entries." "After you sign." Donovan's mask was slipping. "Stop stalling, old man. Your Confederate ancestors would be ashamed of such weakness." The Confederate comment was calculated to anger me. Charleston natives despised when outsiders misunderstood our complex history. But I stayed calm, remembering Detective Hawthorne's words. My ancestors fought for South Carolina. Right and wrong, they fought for home, this home. And you want me to just give it away? "I want you to do what's best for everyone." Donovan stood, looming over me. "Sign the papers or I call the psychiatric transport team waiting outside. Your choice, dignity or force." That's when the front door, hand-carved in 1847, exploded open. "FBI, nobody move." Detective Hawthorne entered with a full SWAT team, weapons drawn, badges gleaming in the afternoon light streaming through my grandmother's lace curtains. Donovan froze, his confident expression crumbling into naked terror. "Dimitri Volkov," Detective Hawthorne announced, savoring each syllable, "you're under arrest for interstate fraud, elder abuse, forgery, identity theft, conspiracy to commit felony theft, and poisoning with intent to harm." "There's been a mistake," Donovan stammered, his Harvard accent slipping into something Eastern European. "I'm trying to help my father-in-law." "Save it for your federal trial." She nodded to her team. "Cuff him." Vincent Kruger tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Hank Castellano, stationed in my parlor, took him down with a tackle that would have made the Citadel football team proud. "Vincent Kruger," another officer announced, "you're under arrest for forgery, conspiracy, and racketeering under the RICO Act." The 2 witnesses didn't even try to run. They dropped to their knees, hands behind their heads, clearly veterans of arrest procedures. As crime scene tape went up around my historic home, neighbors gathered on the cobblestone street. Mrs. Pemberton from the Historic Society started clapping. Others joined. These Charleston blue bloods who'd known my family for generations witnessed justice being served. But the best moment came when Rosalie looked up at me, clarity returning to her beautiful eyes. Miriam's eyes. "Daddy, you saved my life." "No, baby girl, you saved mine by coming home." Please, if this story moves you, subscribe and hit that notification bell right now. Share it with every parent, every grandparent you know. One share could save a family from this nightmare. The trial would reveal even more victims, but also the strength of families who refuse to be broken.
When victim number 17 took the stand, a 93-year-old Tuskegee airman, he looked Donovan in the eye and said, "Son, I fought Nazis in the sky and monsters on the ground. But you're the first demon I've met who wore a wedding ring while destroying families." The entire courtroom stood and applauded until the judge threatened contempt charges. 8 months later, federal courthouse, Charleston, the United States versus Dimitri Volkov, a.k.a. Donovan Ashford, David Sterling, Daniel Ashton, 14 other aliases, had become the most watched trial in South Carolina history. 17 victims from 12 states had gathered to see justice served. I sat in the front row with Rosalie, now divorced and 6 months into recovery, stronger every day. Hank Castellano sat beside us, having worked with federal agencies to uncover 7 more victims we hadn't known about. The prosecutor, James Richardson, a Charleston native whose own grandfather had been swindled by a different con artist, opened with surgical precision. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant didn't just steal money, he stole memories, dignity, and family bonds. He turned daughters against fathers, isolated the elderly, and in 3 cases contributed to deaths from stress-induced heart failure. This is not mere fraud, it's domestic terrorism disguised as marriage. Donovan sat in his orange jumpsuit, the handsome mask gone, replaced by hollow eyes and a gray complexion. 6 months in federal detention without his products and procedures had revealed the ugly truth beneath. His court-appointed attorney, his assets frozen, his high-powered lawyers gone, looked defeated before opening arguments. One by one, victims testified. Dorothy Brennan, 76, from Savannah. He convinced my daughter I had Alzheimer's. I didn't see my grandchildren for 3 years. They thought I was dangerous. Arthur Pemberton, 72, from Nashville. While I was having stress-induced heart surgery, he emptied my accounts and sold my family's farm. 4 generations of history gone. Then came Jeremiah Thorne, 93, Tuskegee Airman, from Austin, wearing his full-dress uniform with medals from 3 wars. Young man, he addressed Donovan directly, his voice still strong despite his age. I fought fascists who at least had the courage to wear uniforms. You hid behind wedding vows and family photos while waging war on those who welcomed you home.
The courtroom erupted in applause before Judge Patricia Morrison restored order. My testimony came on day 4. Prosecutor Richardson walked me through every detail, every recording, every piece of evidence. When he played Donovan's confession from his own spy camera, several jurors visibly recoiled. "Mr. Whitfield," Richardson asked, "how did you feel when you discovered your son-in-law was poisoning you?" "Violated," I answered, meeting Donovan's empty stare. "But mostly, I felt rage that he was doing the same to my daughter, drugging her into compliance while stealing her inheritance." The defense attorney, seemingly grasping at straws, tried to paint me as vindictive, suggested I'd entrapped Donovan, implied I was the real manipulator. "Counselor," I responded to one particularly vicious insinuation, "I'm a 71-year-old widower who wanted nothing more than to see his daughter happy. Your client targeted that love and weaponized it. If defending my family's legacy makes me vindictive, I wear that label with pride." Rosalie testified on day 5. Her testimony destroyed what little defense Donovan had. "He told me Daddy was dying," she said through tears, "said we needed to secure assets before he forgot who we were. He had me so drugged I signed things I don't remember. He stole my father while stealing from my father. He made me betray the man who raised me alone after Mama died." The evidence phase was overwhelming. Forged documents from 17 cases, bank records showing systematic theft exceeding $12 million, recordings of Donovan discussing his crimes, Vincent Kruger's testimony after he flipped for a plea deal describing their entire operation in detail. The most damaging evidence came from Donovan's own laptop, seized during arrest. A spreadsheet of potential victims rated by vulnerability. My name had been marked Ultimate Target, Recent Widower, 1 daughter, Charleston Aristocracy, Shipping Fortune, Historic Property, Emotional Vulnerability, 9 out of 10. I was literally a business plan entry, evaluated like a hostile takeover target. The defense's case lasted 1 day. Donovan took the stand against his lawyer's advice, still believing he could charm his way out. "These elderly people couldn't manage their affairs," he insisted in accented English, his mask fully gone. "I provided structure, assistance, by poisoning them with antipsychotics, by helping them transition to appropriate care, through forgery and theft, through legal documentation they agreed to. While drugged and confused." Donovan's composure finally shattered completely. They were hoarding resources, living in empty mansions while young families struggled. I redistributed wealth that was being wasted on the past. The confession to his twisted philosophy sealed his fate. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all 47 federal counts. Guilty on 23 state counts. Guilty on RICO charges that meant federal prison with no country club minimum security. At sentencing, Judge Morrison, a Charleston native whose own family went back to the Revolution, didn't hold back. Mr. Volkov, you're a predator who targeted the generation that built this nation. You destroyed families for profit and showed zero remorse. South Carolina has the death penalty, and while this isn't a capital case, I'm giving you the next worst thing: life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. You will die in a cage, forgotten and alone, exactly as you planned for your victims. Donovan collapsed, actually collapsed. The man who'd walked into my home with such arrogance was carried out on a stretcher, screaming in Russian about injustice. Outside the courthouse, 17 families stood together. We'd formed a support group, bonds forged through shared trauma and triumph. Jeremiah Thorne shook my hand with military precision. Son, you did what I couldn't. You stopped him cold. Rosalie hugged me as reporters surrounded us. Daddy, you're a hero. No, baby girl, I'm just a father who refused to let evil win. If you've watched this far, you understand the importance of protecting our vulnerable. Please subscribe now. Share this story with everyone. Be the guardian angel someone needs. Our elders built this world. We owe them our protection. The final chapter brought unexpected redemption and a mission that would save countless families.
1 year after Donovan's conviction, my doorbell rang at sunrise. Standing there was a young woman holding a baby, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Whitfield," she said, "I named my son Clarence, after the man who saved my grandfather's life. Can he meet his namesake?" That's when I realized our story had become bigger than just our family. It had become hope for families across America. The 1-year anniversary of Donovan's arrest found me in my garden, planting Miriam's favorite azaleas along the same path where she'd walked in her wedding dress 42 years ago. The house that Donovan had tried to steal had become a symbol of resilience, not just for me, but for 17 families across the nation. The doorbell rang, the same bell my great-great-grandmother had installed in 1851. A young black woman stood there with an infant, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Whitfield, I'm Sarah Brennan, Dorothy's granddaughter from Savannah." Dorothy Brennan, Donovan's first victim, who'd lost her Victorian mansion and spent 3 years estranged from her family. "Sarah, please, come in." She entered, cradling her baby. "I named him Clarence, after you, the man who gave us our family back." My throat tightened as I looked at the infant, his tiny fingers grasping at air. "I don't understand." After Donovan was convicted, Grandma and Mama reconciled. The truth came out about the drugging, the manipulation. We're a family again. Sarah's voice broke. "She's living with us now. She watches little Clarence while I work at the medical college. We're whole again because you refused to be a victim." Before I could respond, more cars arrived. Hank Costello emerged with Jeremiah Thorne, Arthur Pemberton from Nashville, 6 other victims from the trial. Then Rosalie's car pulled up, and my breath caught. "Daddy," she said, her eyes sparkling with the light Donovan had tried to extinguish, "we have something for you." They led me to my backyard where a crowd had gathered, 17 families, all Donovan's victims, plus reporters, city officials, and neighbors. A banner stretched across my grandmother's gazebo, the Whitfield Foundation, protecting family legacies. Hank stepped forward. "Clarence, your investigation didn't just stop Donovan. It exposed a nationwide network of elder fraud. These families want to honor that." Jeremiah Thorne, still striking at 94, stood at attention. We've established a foundation in your name, partnering with Miriam's memory. Rosalie will direct it, will educate families, help victims, and ensure predators like Donovan never succeed again.
Rosalie took my hand. Daddy, I've left my teaching job. This is my calling now, protecting families like ours. We've already raised $2 million in donations. The FBI wants to use your investigation as a training model. They're calling it the Whitfield Protocol. I looked at these people, strangers who'd become family through shared trauma and triumph. Dorothy Brennan, reunited with her granddaughter. Arthur Pemberton, rebuilding his family farm with his sons. Jeremiah Thorne, still fighting for justice at 94. You all honor me, I managed through tears. But this victory belongs to every parent who refuses to be dismissed, every elder who demands dignity, every family that stands together against evil. Rosalie pulled out architectural plans. We're converting the carriage house into the foundation offices. The main house will host support groups, training sessions for law enforcement, and counseling for victims. The plans showed my family home transformed, not into Donovan's trophy, but into a fortress protecting other families. Miriam would have loved this. The district attorney wants you to speak at the National Elder Justice Conference. Secret Service is creating new protocols based on your investigation. You've literally changed federal law. As the sun set over Charleston Harbor, 17 families shared a meal in my garden. Children played where Donovan had once measured for profit. Laughter filled spaces he'd tried to poison with greed. Sarah's baby Clarence reached for me, and I held him carefully, feeling the weight of the future in my arms. "Mr. Whitfield," Sarah said, "when Clarence grows up, I'll tell him about the man he's named after, the Marine who wouldn't surrender, the father who wouldn't abandon his daughter, the widower who honored his wife's memory by protecting others." Jeremiah raised his sweet tea. "To Clarence Whitfield, who proved that heroes don't retire, they just find new battles to win." "To all of us," I corrected, looking at Rosalie's healing smile, "who prove that love is stronger than greed, family stronger than fraud, and truth stronger than any lie." As the stars appeared over Charleston Harbor, the first stars Miriam and I had wished upon in this very garden, I felt her presence. The house she'd loved had become exactly what she'd always envisioned, a sanctuary for those who needed protection, a home for those standing alone. The doorbell rang once more. An elderly Vietnamese man stood there, trembling. "Mr. Whitfield, I think my daughter's boyfriend is trying to steal my shrimping business. Can you help?" I opened my door wider, just as my ancestors had for 180 years. "Come in, friend. You're safe now. Your family." The Whitfield Foundation's first case had just walked through our door. The house Donovan tried to steal had become exactly what it was meant to be. Not just a building, but a beacon of hope for families under siege. Justice had been served, but more importantly, love had won. And in Charleston, in America, in every family that refuses to be broken, love always wins when good people stand together. Miriam would be so proud. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in protecting those who protected us, please don't let this be just another video you watched. Subscribe to this channel right now. Share this with everyone you know, your parents, grandparents, neighbors. Right now, somewhere in America, an elder is being victimized exactly like Clarence was. Your share could save them. Hit that notification bell because we'll keep sharing stories that matter, stories that protect, stories that remind us that family means standing up for those who stood up for us. Together, we are stronger than any predator. Together, we can protect every family. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being part of the solution. Remember, when we protect our elders, we protect our history, our values, and our future. God bless you, and God bless every family fighting for justice.